Welcome back to the program. This is Kenya's premier Sunday morning political show, Sunday edition. Now, the war inside Jubilee appears to be escalating with a day with the party vice chairman David Murathe stoking more trouble by maintaining that Deputy President William Ruto retires together with President Uhuru Kenyatta when their term ends in 2022. Now, Murathe has been insisting that the ruling Jubilee party may be forced to move to the Supreme Court to seek advisory opinion over the eligibility of Ruto going for the top seat in 2022. After serving as Uhuru Kenyatta's deputy for 2 terms. Our man in Nyanza, Kevin Ogutu, has more.
At Ralingo village in Rarieda, Siaya County, the stage was set for the final journey of Kefa Oduor Tuju, who succumbed to brain cancer in Canada last month. But this ceremony would also bring on board the political class, given this was the home of Jubilee Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju. Jubilee Party Vice Chairman David Murathe once again stirred political debate by questioning the eligibility of Deputy President William Ruto as a presidential candidate in 2022 elections.
Section 148 of this Constitution, subsection 5, it says nobody can run for Deputy President for more than 2 terms. Ibinjo. And why does it say that? Because 145 also says nobody can run for president for more than 2 terms. And this presidency is a pair. Jim.
This coming barely a month after he disowned any form of MOU between President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. During campaigns, President Uhuru Kenyatta promised to throw his weight behind Ruto come 2022 after his 2nd term ends.
If he automatically becomes president without going for the mandate from the mwananchi, what mandate does he have? Si ni ile walichaguliwa nayo. Kwa sababu ikiwa wewe uko kwa hiyo for 2 terms, then that is why 148 says you can't run again. Najim, I want an advisory opinion. Na tutaenda mpaka Supreme Court. Sisi hatucheki na watu.
But this seemed not to go down well with the party's Secretary General Raphael Tuju, who did not hesitate setting the record straight.
As the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, those are his opinions, not the opinions of the party. Okay.
But in his rather long speech, Tuju said 2022 was such a long time and urged those interested in various positions to hold their horses.
I sympathize, I really sympathize with anybody who has got plans for 2022. Those are so far. Me, I can't even plan for next week. Really. And I was talking with Dr. Gikonyo the other day, and he said, Raphael, at our age, he doesn't even buy bananas which are not ripe, because he could die before they, you understand? He could die before you need daktari wa moyo.
So I hope that in this new journey, we are going to be together, and I hope that both Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta stand firm, because there are those who would rather we move in anger and in conflict.
And the new twist in Jubilee does not seem to be the last. Kevin Ogutu, KTN News.
All right, so the eligibility of the Deputy President William Ruto's candidature or presidential ambitions in 2022 coming under heavy fire from right inside his political party, the Jubilee Party. Let me begin with you, Kipchumba. Let's begin from the flashpoint of this whole debate, and that is the latest utterance by David Murathe, the Jubilee Vice Chairman, saying that if you run for 2, because Ruto has run for 2 terms, has been Deputy President for 2 terms, that ticket is joint, that they are joint at the hip with the President Uhuru Kenyatta. Therefore, he cannot seek for a presidential mandate in 2022. What does the law say? I mean, they're saying they will go to the Supreme Court to seek for an advisory. But does any of what he's saying hold any water from a legal standpoint?
First of all, Ben, just a plain reading of the law settles the matter. You do not need an advisory opinion from an English teacher or anybody. Those thoughts are frivolous, vexatious, and the least frivolous. We cannot entertain spurious thoughts. As a lawyer, first of all, when you are seeking constitutional interpretation, you do not approach the Supreme Court. It is a jurisdiction of the High Court. And then again, our Constitution limits the people or the entities who can seek advisory opinion from the Supreme Court. As an individual, it's only the Attorney General who can seek an advisory opinion from the Supreme Court. Secondly, even if we were to amend the law to allow for whatever Murathe is discussing, it will be unconstitutional, because that will be trying to limit somebody's rights, which the law in itself cannot limit. Secondly, reading Article 148 and the article he has been talking about, when it comes to interpretation of the Constitution, you interpret the Constitution in such a manner that all those articles have equal effect. There is no one article that overrides the other.
Okay.
Therefore, you cannot interpret the article that gives and they establish the office of the Deputy President to override his interest to vie or his rights, political rights,
So
to
let
vie
me bring your
as
attention
a
to
presidential
what
candidate.
Murathe has been saying. He was quoting Section 148 of the Constitution, saying, which says nobody can run for deputy president for more than 2 terms. And why does it say that? Murathe says, because Section 142 also says nobody can run for president for more than 2 terms, and this presidency is a pair. So Murathe says, if for whatever reason the president is not able to carry out his functions, who becomes the president? The deputy president. That is his rationale.
But then, we cannot subject the Constitution and any other legal document to the interpretation as equally as we will have subjected a love letter, where you interpret the first section where you are told you are loved because of your height, the other one you are told you are loved because you are handsome. No, this is a constitution and you must interpret it as a whole.
All right.
So for Murathe, and that's why I call these assertions frivolous and vexatious, because they have no place in the law. The other thing that we need to understand, there is the president and there is the presidency. The Constitution addresses the president is the office holder, the chief executive of the country. Presidency is what they are with the deputy. Is the president and the deputy, they form the presidency. And that is why when we are running a budget, the budget is for the presidency.
All right.
Therefore, we have to distinguish between the 2 offices. And in terms of office bearers, the office bearers are limited at individual rate, not limited as a presidency. It would have been easier and much in a broader sense, it will have been written, Article 148 will have read that the presidency, if you occupy the presidency for 2 terms, you are not legible to vie as a president.
Okay. Away from the law, from the legal jargon, Hesbon, so Murathe says if the president, if the deputy president automatically becomes the president, if for some reason the president cannot carry out his mandate without going to the voter, then he's still riding on that first mandate that they were given as a pair, and he says that is why he cannot vie.
I think that is
Does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But he has some sense that there is a way in which the deputy president can become the president without the popular mandate from the people through universal suffrage, which is very clear. That is a provision in the Constitution, that in the event that the president cannot carry out his function, the deputy president becomes the president. But it doesn't negate the fact that the law says that the only thing, in the presidency, the only person who cannot become the president for more than 2 terms is the president. And then 148 that he's talking about, article number 148 that he's talking about, is actually barring an individual for running for the deputy president office for more than 2 terms. So that is the only thing that we should be talking about, that the deputy president, yes, 2 different things. The deputy president cannot, again, be somebody's running mate. The law bars him from doing that. But again, if you look at what Murathe is saying, that he will go up to the Supreme Court, he doesn't need to. He needs to look at other jurisprudences that we have around. Our Constitution borrows heavily from the United States of America. And before I even look at the United States of America, here in Zambia, President Edgar Lungu, he's contesting for a 3rd term. Why is he contesting? Because the first term was in a constitutional dispensation that made it possible for him to finish the term of a president who died in office. And it did not stop him from continuing as a president. But then if you go back to the United States of America, Ronald Reagan had a deputy president, a vice president in George Bush Sr. for 8 years. And then George Bush contested and became a president between 1989 and 1993. Then when Clinton was vying, his vice president for 2 terms was Al Gore. Al Gore contested against George Bush Jr. and actually won, and it was just separated by the recount of Florida. So whatever Murathe is telling us, is something that makes a little sense, but he's stretching that sense to suit himself. The law is known to be an ass, but I think Murathe is making the law a super ass, and it is probably not making any sense.
Mark, Murathe is a senior member of the majority party in this country. He's a powerful man. We wouldn't expect him to be speaking, without thinking. What do you think he's trying to do here?
We must understand that Murathe is not a lawyer, he's a politician. And if you try to read the legal argument that he has, it is quite easily dispelled, but his message is not. Because in my mind, his message is clear, that from where he stands and what he represents, whether it is a group of people or as an individual, he is clearly telling Kenyans that he has trained his guns on stopping the presidency of one William Samoei Arap Ruto. However, the reasons he is using in this particular argument to bar Ruto from running, I think are not founded in the reality of what we should ask. The reality of what we should ask is included in Chapter 6 of our Constitution. When we watered down the implementation of Chapter 6, then what we created was a floodgate where in this country you can have a Sonko governor, a Waititu governor, because the threshold for being anything in this country is having a heartbeat. As long as your heartbeat, you can run for any office. Your competence and your capacity and even your personal moral standing notwithstanding. Right. What this country needs to revisit, and the question we need to ask ourselves, and we need to ask Mudavadi and Raila and Wetangula and Kalonzo and everybody else who wants to run for office in this country, is what kind of person are you? You cannot be in the papers every day being alluded to being a thief, being alluded to being corrupt, and then at the same time we want you to be president. That cannot work, because even in my chama, where we are 20 people, 20 cousins, the person who's selected to be treasurer or chair is the person who's known to be least a thief. So you need to clear up your name and tell us whether you are a thief or not. So by that I mean, so that people don't think I'm being one-sided, I mean that some people need to report to us about Tokyo Land. Some people need to report to us about Goldenberg. And some people need to report to us about hotels on Langata Road. They need to tell us where these things came from, because that is the standard by which we must judge leadership. So as a country, we must be selfish. For me, I really don't care whether it's a Luya, Kamba, Masai, or even a white man who comes to rule our country. Right. For me, the concern is, one, do you have the character that is necessary to lead this country? And B, do you have the wherewithal to take us where we need to go? The question also is, and we must understand, that the failure of Uhuru Kenyatta is the failure of Ruto. If Uhuru Kenyatta fails, then please let them be a pair, not by constitution, but by destiny. Right. Because if they have failed, why do we want to continue failure? If Uhuru Kenyatta succeeds and their government succeeds, then I'll be the first one to vote for Ruto. Right. But if they're failing at the rate at which it is looking, then let them be a pair.
All right. Dismas, we always talk about in this show about the political party system in this country, and Jubilee is one of the biggest parties today. I mean, the political party life cycles are what is a story for another day. But as we speak, the main reason for forming the Jubilee party was they say they wanted to bring the country together. It was about national unity. They're saying it's a national party. So do you think that what is happening right now represents the ideals of a national party? Do you think is talk of an understanding between Ruto and Kenyatta in 2012 about one of them being an automatic candidate in 2022, does it hold any water? Is it the way to go? Well, Ben, or is the rough waters that Ruto is being subjected to, is that still part of the democratic space?
Well, the Jubilee catfights are very interesting. For somebody who's coming to Kenya for the very first time, they would actually think that Murathe is in one political party while Ruto is on another political party. Now, these catfights are revealing several things that are actually confirming several things. That number one, there's no political party by the name Jubilee. You just have two powerful personalities. So you have President Kenyatta and the Deputy William Samoei Ruto. You have two powerful personalities. Because we're even told that when the two personalities were coming together, that communities were consulted, then they signed an MOU that one shall be president for 10 years and another one for 10 years. So they're
just proving that did not happen?
It did not happen. I mean, did you see members of the Kalenjin community and Kikuyu community at a meeting, at a rally, and all of them by acclamation said, yeah, we are signing this deal? That's why they're coming and saying, this was an agreement between two personalities. And the members of those two nations are asking whether or not their selfish interests were in fact captured in that MOU that those two people signed. But what we need to ask ourselves is, do we need to have very strong political parties? Yes. Because if we had strong political parties in Kenya, or indeed if Jubilee is a political party, then the deputy chair, David Murathe, says something which is against the political party, then you would have the political party machinery summoning him for a meeting, to discipline him and to tell him to take a walk. You've seen the way Raphael Tuju is at pains, struggling to say that what Murathe is saying does not represent the political party, that the political party has not taken a decision. And then he talks about ripe bananas. I actually don't know whether he means the ripe bananas as we know them from Kisii, or again he's trying to say something else. And in the same funeral, Murathe says that he's trying to manage expectations. And in my interpretation, he says that the deputy president had become too strong, too powerful, and almost assumed that he's going to become president in 2022, that people now need to start managing those expectations. And you see, that's where, as a country, we're in a very dangerous corner. That the people who are supposed to take Kenya to the next level, they're focused on winning an election. Whatever happens in the interim of 5 years, nobody cares. Yesterday, I expected Murathe to talk about the way traders were being mistreated within the CBD. One day you are paying 50 shillings, the following day in the morning, you are told you are going to be paying 1,000 bob to sell your wares. Now, those are the issues you expected him to talk about. Even for the deputy president, he's been receiving delegations at Sugoi from Western Kenya, from Kisii, all parts of the world. Right. What you expect him to talk about is not whether or not he's going to run in 2022, but that he's sorting out issues. Those are his neighbors. I don't know whether he received delegations from Nandi. The people are having a crisis with maize. So that instead of giving them Christmas gifts, he's talking about making it sustainable for them, that when they see a political leader in Kenya, they're not running there to be given a packet of unga or cooking oil. That we need to have leaders who are reading from the same in-book from President Kenyatta. It talks about the Big Four agenda. Now, if other leaders say that the Big Four agenda is a waste of time, then let's construct it and come up with something which is going to take us the next level. Now people are sick and tired. David Murathe says he wants to go to court. The deputy president says, I don't care that you're going to endorse me. Raila Odinga is here, Musalia Mudavadi is here. Now poor Mura and poor Wanjiko, we are seated here wondering, these guys we elected into office. We gave them a contract of 5 years. What is going to happen after 5 years? Are we still going to be mark timing here, yawning away? For instance, during last year, over the Christmas period, for some reason, folks were very gloomy. Folks did not travel to their villages, and those who did were not even able to buy these flour to make chapatis because the economy is going down the drain. And then you've got leaders, when they wake up every single day in the morning, they're receiving delegations, they're talking about 2022, then you're given a pack of unga, you go home smiling. You are at a funeral, instead of giving the fella a warm send-off, you are talking about 2022. You go to Western Kenya, you've got a chaser, and a chaser is creating jobs now in Pakistan instead of creating jobs in Kenya. What kind of leadership do we have, really? And I think time has come time has come for us Kenyans to go back and look at that chapter 6. All right. And at Koten and ask ourselves, where, like in Chinua Achebe, where did the rain start beating us? How can we correct this? It's very disturbing for Kenyans to say that you are simply going to be elected president because you know your father's name or because you are a hustler. Who cares about your father? Who cares about your hustlerhood? What Mura is interested in is somebody who's going to drive the economy. Like the latest World Bank reports, we are told tax revenues are down, and the money we'll be making this year, almost 100% will be going to be paying our national debts. Now, is that a nation that we are really proud of?
Very good points you have raised there. But do you think the Jubilee Party environment and its organization, or lack of it thereof, represents the national leadership?
There's no political party by the name Jubilee. What you have is powerful politicians who have poisoned democracy in Kenya, who are poisoning the rule of law and order, who are unhappy with this handshake. I suspect this handshake by President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga has rattled so many people within Jubilee that they don't know what to do. They are lost. And also, you remember after the president and Raila Odinga signed that the MOU or the handshake, on this show we said, can we examine that handshake to find out whether it captures the interests of all Kenyans, of Wanjiku and Murathe? Now, members of the National Assembly and Senate from Jubilee have no idea of what is contained in that handshake. And they don't even have capacity to summon their party leader to ask him, President Kenyatta, this handshake, what is it all about? Is it giving Raila Odinga presidency in 2022? Right. Is it about the Big Four agenda? Is it about building roads? And the same thing is happening with ODM. Right. They have no capacity to question Raila Odinga. So you begin to wonder, you've been elected by people to go to the National Assembly and Senate, yet you cannot look at your party leader in the eye and ask him, you went for this handshake. Does it represent our cumulative national interest?
In the United States, where we borrow a lot from, the Democratic Party stands for what they say and what they believe in. The Republicans, they'll take responsibility for the government shutdown. The Jubilee Party seems to be losing control. Do you think that is because of the handshake?
No. First of all, or to begin with, you must understand that Jubilee is a unique political party. As you compare and contrast with other political parties in other regions, right, you must realize that Jubilee Party came into being after the merger of 13 or so parties. Therefore, you have to understand that there are different individuals and different interests that were brought together. And the primary goal then was to win an election, and after that, the second goal was to form a national party which going forward will be used as a field or as a pedestal onto which ideas will be propagated. And recently, we have had Mitt Romney and Donald Trump reading from different scripts, and they are in the same party, the GOP.
And it has become an issue.
And it has become an issue, and it is even moving to, there are members in GOP who cannot understand why Trump should not be impeached. And there are members who say, because we are in this party, Trump should continue being. In South Africa, there are issues within ANC where the other half of the people in ANC believe Malema should be brought back to succeed when Ramaphosa is heading out. And secondly, in transition terms, there is normally a very big issue. Look at even the Obama, his last term. There was a lot of, even the economy at some point, there was a shutdown because people could not agree. Look at what happened in South Africa when Zuma was doing his last term. Even the economy was in the negatives because most our economies are highly dependent on political power and power play. And the other thing is that most of these economies are capitalistic in nature, and the people who hold the wheels of political power control factors of production, such that when they decide that we don't want Ben, they'll make sure that their companies and everything they do is against you. But the last thing that we must look at going forward, political parties are not choirs per se, where we come and sing, we agree that that man is singing tenor, this one is soprano, all of us will sing this way. No, political parties must be avenues or arenas where people have heavy political discussions, without which we might go to violence. Because if today we are to block Murathe from saying whatever he's saying, and other people, where will that energy be directed to? What we must protect is to make sure that whatever they are saying remains within.
All right. Let's take another quick commercial break here on Sunday edition. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion, but we'll take a look at another angle. And a lot of focus on this debate has been on central Kenya. And William Ruto is not the only discussion inside Jubilee. Moses Kuria, the Member of Parliament for Gatundu South, who is also the President's Member of Parliament, has been rattling the President of what he has done, his development track record in central Kenya, and that seems to be a big part of this Uhuru Kenyatta succession politics. We have that and more when we come back.